Have you ever stopped to ask yourself, why do I feel so powerless sometimes, even though I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do? You show up, you work hard, you try to be a good person. You push yourself. You read the books, you watch the podcasts, you hustle, you endure. And yet there's this strange heaviness, a quiet exhaustion, a whisper in the back of your mind that says, something's not right. I'm losing something. And that's not your imagination. That's your soul telling you a truth that most of us never want to face. You're giving away your strength without even knowing it. Not all at once, but slowly, in tiny, almost invisible trades. Every time you betray your gut to avoid conflict. Every time you silence your voice to be liked. Every time you say yes out of guilt. Every time you scroll past your intuition because it's inconvenient. Every time you perform instead of be real. And before long, you're not just tired, you're hollow. You're successful on the outside, but empty on the inside. You feel like you're living someone else's life, trapped in a story you didn't write. And the worst part? No one else can see it. Because you've learned to look strong while being weak. You've learned to smile while slowly disappearing. And that's the modern tragedy. We confuse strength with control, with image, with invulnerability. But real strength is something entirely different. It's invisible. It's internal. It's silent most of the time. It's the strength to stay true to yourself in a world that's constantly trying to rewrite you. But the world doesn't take your strength by force. It waits for you to hand it over, willingly, quietly. And most of us do. We give our strength to systems that don't care if we're well, only if we're useful. We give our strength to relationships where love is conditional. We give our strength to narratives that were planted in us before we could even speak.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
You're not good enough. You don't matter unless you prove yourself. You don't deserve happiness until you've suffered enough. But where did these ideas come from? Who told us we had to earn our right to feel whole? Who told us that exhaustion is a badge of honor? That sacrifice is the highest virtue? That silence is strength? Somewhere along the way, being strong became synonymous with being numb, with tolerating more than you should, but with never asking for help. But what if that's not strength? What if that's just fear in disguise? Fear of being seen. Fear of being vulnerable. And fear of disappointing others. Let me ask you something, and don't answer quickly. Really sit with this. In what areas of your life have you traded authenticity for approval? Where have you edited yourself to be loved? Where have you shrunk to be accepted? Where have you said yes when your soul was screaming no? These are the questions we avoid because they hurt, because they expose the cost of our compliance. But until we ask them, until we really ask them, we keep bleeding strength into places that don't deserve it. And here's the twist. When you give away your strength, you don't just weaken yourself, you weaken the world. Because the world needs your unfiltered truth, your unique voice, your unpolished, imperfect power. Not the version you think others want, but the real you, the one beneath the performance. And yet, we're terrified of that version. We think, if I stop performing, I'll lose everything. I'll be rejected. I'll be judged. I'll be alone. But what if the opposite is true? What if your power lives on the other side of that fear? What if the moment you stop trying to be who you're not, you become someone no one can ignore? someone magnetic, someone free, someone whole. This isn't about ego. This isn't about domination. This is about alignment, about reclaiming the strength you've been giving away in exchange for crumbs of validation. Because here's the thing, no one can take your power without your permission. But the world is very good at convincing you to give it. It whispers, "Don't speak up. You'll make them uncomfortable." It says, "Don't question authority. You'll lose your place." It warns, "Don't stand out. You'll be alone." And over time, we internalize these whispers until they become our voice. And that's how we forget who we really are. That's how we become ghosts inside our own lives. But you're not a ghost. You're not here to be small. You're not here to be liked. You're here to be true. And truth is power. Not loud, not flashy, but unshakable. The kind of power that doesn't need to prove itself. The kind that walks into a room and changes it without saying a word. But to access that power, you have to stop leaking it. You have to stop outsourcing your confidence. Stop waiting for permission. Stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. Your strength is not in your image. It's in your essence. And it gets stronger every time you choose yourself. Every time you honor your gut instead of your guilt. Every time you stand in your truth, even when your voice shakes. Especially when your voice shakes. Because that's when it's real. That's when it's earned. And that's when it transforms not only you, but everyone around you. Think about it, how often do we admire people who are real? Who speak plainly? Who live without apology? Why? Because they remind us of what we've forgotten, that authenticity is magnetic. That truth cuts through noise. That power isn't something you acquire, it's something you remember. So let me ask you again, in a deeper way this time, where are you giving away your strength? Is it your job? Are you spending your days performing tasks that drain you just to maintain a status that doesn't feed your soul? Is it your relationships? Are you surrounded by people who only love you when you're easy to love, who disappear the moment you set a boundary? Is it your habits? Are you numbing yourself every night just to make it through the day? Is it your thoughts? Are you letting your inner critic run the show while your inner wisdom sits in silence? These are not easy questions, but they are liberating ones, because awareness is the first step to reclamation. And once you see where your power is leaking, you can begin to seal the cracks. And not with force, not with rage, but with clarity, with intention, with boundaries that say, "I know who I am and I will no longer abandon myself to make others comfortable." That's not rebellion. That's healing. That's revolution. And it starts inside you, one choice at a time, one truth at a time, one breath at a time. The world doesn't need more obedient people. It needs more conscious ones. People who know their worth, who live from the inside out, who refuse to betray their soul just to fit in. That's how we change things. Not by shouting louder, but by standing firmer. Not by seeking applause, but by seeking alignment. And here's the most radical part. When you reclaim your strength, you give others permission to do the same. You become a mirror, a catalyst, a lighthouse. Not because you're perfect, but because you're real. And in a world drowning in performance, realness is salvation. So if you feel lost, if you feel tired, if you feel like life is harder than it should be, maybe it's not because you're weak. Maybe it's because your strength has been bleeding out through 1,000 tiny cuts. But it's not too late. You can come back to yourself right now, not by adding anything, but by subtracting what isn't true, what isn't you. And in that return, you'll find something you forgot you even had: power. Not the kind that dominates, the kind that liberates, the kind that doesn't need to be seen to be felt, the kind that can't be taken, only given away. And you don't have to give it away anymore, because you're starting to remember who you are. And that remembering, that's where everything changes. But we're just getting started. Because now that you see how you're giving away your strength, the next step is deeper, more radical, more powerful, learning how to hold it, how to live as someone who is no longer shrinking, how to embody your truth without apology. The next part is titled Stop Shrinking, How to Hold Your Power Without Losing Yourself. Say continue to begin. So here you are standing at the edge of something that can't be undone. Once you've seen how easily we give away our strength, how subtly we trade truth for comfort, how often we let approval outrank authenticity, you can't go back to sleep. You can't unsee the ways you've been shrinking. Not because you wanted to be small, but because you thought smallness was safer. Because the world taught you early on that being too loud, too emotional, too honest, you would cost you something: love, belonging, validation, maybe even survival. And so you adapted like we all did. You learned how to camouflage your truth in environments that punished honesty. You learned how to be agreeable even when your heart was on fire. You learned how to dim your light just enough to avoid being seen, but not so much that people would ask what was wrong. You learned to shrink yourself just right. But now, something inside you is done. Not angry, not rebellious, just done. Done performing, done apologizing, done pretending that shrinking is strength. Because it's not. Shrinking is self-abandonment dressed up as humility. Shrinking is silence with a halo. Shrinking is fear masquerading as wisdom. And deep down, you know this. You've always known. That's why you've felt the ache. That's why no compliment ever filled the hole. Because you weren't looking for praise. You were looking for permission. Permission to stop betraying yourself. Permission to stop filtering your soul. For permission to stop explaining your worth. And I'm here to tell you, you don't need permission anymore. You just need to decide. Decide that you will no longer be a lesser version of yourself to make other people feel more comfortable. Decide that your truth is more important than their opinion. Decide that self-respect is worth more than temporary peace. Because the moment you stop shrinking, you start expanding, not in arrogance, not in ego, but in essence. You start to take up space in your own life. You stop walking on eggshells. You stop editing your laughter, your anger, your joy, your vision. You stop asking for entry into rooms you were born to build. And when you do this, when you hold your power instead of leaking it, you begin to feel something you may not have felt in years: wholeness. Not the kind of wholeness that comes from checking every box, but the kind that comes from finally coming home to yourself. And here's the paradox: the more you hold your power, the less you need to prove it. You don't need to dominate. You don't need to be louder than others. You don't need to win every argument. Because real power is quiet, solid, rooted. It's not afraid to say no. It's not afraid to walk away. It's not afraid to disappoint people who only loved you when you were convenient. Real power is presence, and presence is magnetic. That's why people who are deeply rooted in themselves can change the energy of a room without saying a word. They don't shrink. They don't puff up. They just are. And that being is power. But holding your power takes practice. Because the world doesn't clap when you stop shrinking. In fact, it often pushes back. People who are comfortable with your smallness will resist your expansion. They'll say you've changed. They'll say you're selfish. They'll say you've got an ego. But what they're really saying is, I don't benefit from your self-abandonment anymore. And that's okay. Not everyone is meant to stay. Some people were only aligned with the version of you that tolerated too much, gave too much, stayed too quiet. Let them go. Let the roles go. Let the expectations go. Because the moment you start holding your power, you start attracting people and opportunities that are aligned with your truth, not your performance. And that's when life gets real. Not easier, but truer. And truth has a weight to it. It demands things. It demands clarity. It demands boundaries. It demands that you stop outsourcing your identity. That you stop asking people to reflect back to you what you already know. That you stop seeking external permission to be fully alive. So how do you hold your power without losing yourself? You anchor. You anchor into who you are, not who people want you to be. You build a home inside yourself so solid that no rejection can collapse it. You become so familiar with your worth that no compliment or insult can distort it. You stop giving people emotional ownership over your life. You stop waiting for them to validate your choices. You stop asking the world to tell you what you already know in your bones. That you are enough. That you've always been enough. And that enoughness is not a finish line. It's a foundation. From there you begin. From there you grow. From there you stop shrinking. But here's the part we often miss. To stay rooted in your power, you must let go of the story that power means never being afraid. That power means always having it together. That power means never struggling. No, real power means being honest about your fear and showing up anyway. It means feeling uncertainty and not letting it steer the ship. It means falling down and choosing to rise without shame. It means being radically honest, not just with others, but with yourself. Especially with yourself. Because self-deception is the fastest way to lose your power. Every time you pretend to be okay when you're not, you fracture. Every time you suppress your truth to avoid discomfort, you shrink. Every time you say yes when your soul says no, you bleed. And over time, those fractures become habits. Those habits become identity. And that identity becomes a cage. But no more. You're done performing. You're done pretending. You're done giving away your strength to people, systems, and beliefs that never deserved it. You're ready to hold it. Not like a sword, like a compass. A quiet center that reminds you of who you are when the world tries to make you forget. A stillness inside that doesn't need to shout to be heard. A presence so grounded that even your silence speaks volumes. And yes, it will be uncomfortable at first. You'll feel guilty. You'll feel selfish. You'll feel afraid. But those are just echoes of your old self, trying to lure you back into comfort. Don't listen. Keep going. Keep choosing yourself, one honest moment at a time. Keep standing in your truth, even if your voice shakes. Keep building a life that reflects your soul, not your wounds. And when you forget, and you will forget, come back. Come back to your breath. Come back to your body. Come back to your knowing. Because your strength is not gone, it's just been waiting. Waiting for you to stop shrinking. Waiting for you to stop apologizing. Waiting for you to arrive. Not as a brand. Not as a version, but as you, fully, freely, fiercely. And that arrival, that homecoming, is where everything changes. Because when you stop giving away your strength, you don't just reclaim your life. You redefine what power looks like. You show others that it's possible. You become a mirror, a lighthouse, a force. And the world doesn't need more performers. It needs more people like you, awake, alive, unapologetically whole. So hold your power, not with force, with grace, with clarity, but with presence. Because you don't need to be louder. You just need to be real. You don't need to be more. You just need to be you. And when you stop shrinking and start expanding, the world will feel it. And that feeling, that's the revolution. That's the return. That's the quiet, unshakable roar of someone who finally remembered who they are, and who decided once and for all not to forget again.